We're snorting cap rates and shooting up cash flow here at Deal Junkies. Welcome back to Deal Junkies. What's up, guys? This is Gabe. I'm here with Trevor, and we've got none other than Chad Montgomery.
My favorite Montgomery.
Yeah. Oh.
Amen.
What's
Amen.
What's Jaron going to think of that? We call him Jerry now, though. What's Jerry going to think of that?
He'll agree.
He'll think Chad's the best.
Chad is the best.
He should.
Okay, so let's give a little bit of background on Chad. Chad is one of our dearest friends. He owns MCG. We call him the least confident general contractor in our area. That's a compliment, by the way.
Yeah.
That's a compliment.
I appreciate that.
We love Chad. Chad does a great job. And recently, you've delved into business and real estate, owning buildings. So we want to ask you a lot of questions. Thanks for being here with us today. Do you want to kick it off, Trev?
Yeah. So, well, first off, thank you for making Jaron successful because you have given him everything. I know he'll love hearing that.
Great intro. Great intro.
Are you saying he's Silver Spoon?
Yeah.
all of Jaron's success comes from Chad?
Chad, so if you've listened to the other episodes where we talk to Jaron, Chad is the reason why Jaron exists.
Yeah.
It is, why he exists, yes.
That's all he
He's
has
his
written in
father.
his notepad right there.
But the worst thing you could ever tell Jaron is that everything he has is because Chad gave it to him.
It's his least favorite thing to hear, and that's why I have to say it publicly.
He has to work twice as hard to make sure nobody thinks he's
Or
the
three
Silver
times.
Spoon.
Yeah. It's a lot.
But
It's unfair.
But Chad did raise a great kid, and so we have to give him that. And I think Jaron just started getting into real estate before you did.
I
didn't he?
got questions about that later.
Yeah,
he
did.
did.
All
Yeah.
right.
But I wanted to start off with Chad because you were friends with Gabe back in the day when you guys were both doing alcohol.
No.
No?
That's not how it goes.
Okay, you were doing that on your own.
Yep.
You guys have similar stories. So I like your story because you went from whatever you were doing to this super successful business later on in life. So I was curious, where you were at, what changed in your life, and how you made that happen. Because a lot of people want to be like that, but don't know how to turn their life around. And you could give a little background if you don't mind sharing some of that stuff.
Yeah. So I guess if you go back to the beginning, from 18, 20 years old, I worked in telecommunications. So I worked for VoiceStream. VoiceStream became T-Mobile, and then I went and did outside sales. Singular became AT&T.
You're selling cell phones?
Wait,
Well, doing
sorry.
customer support.
I forgot one thing before that.
What?
I love to tell people credibility first. Chad
No,
built
no.
like a $7 million portfolio.
Everybody
Yeah.
knows.
Everyone knows
MCG, Chad. His signs are
Random
everywhere.
people listen to this.
Yeah, they've seen MCG
So
before.
for
He's
background,
famous.
you built like a $7 million portfolio once you started to buy real estate in
That's
a year.
That's just been
right?
in the last couple of years. though.
Last like year and a half, 2 years. yeah.
Okay, just for reference, who Chad is.
Chad's turning into a deal junkie.
Yes,
before
I know.
our eyes.
Yeah.
It's starting to happen.
Yeah.
So this is the early part of his process.
But before all that, go back to what you were doing.
So anyway, I was just working regular jobs like regular people, kind of living paycheck to paycheck, I guess is a good way to explain it. Never really found anything I loved that I knew like, oh, this is what I'm gonna do with my life. But there was things that interested me. And then I guess about 23 years old, Jaron was about 2, I got divorced, and I decided at that point that I was going to go look for work where I could be, where the most important thing about working was the hours that I worked. So I wanted to be off by 2:30, 3 o'clock every day. And one of my buddies had started a drywall construction company, and he said, hey, come work for me and do sales and help me build this company. And if you do that, in exchange, I'll give you the hours you want. And the reason that was important to me is because I had Jaron week on, week off. And so it allowed me to coach all of his sports. So I got to see him every day. So that was kind of my plan during that time. And I knew I wasn't out chasing my career. I wasn't looking to get married. I wasn't doing anything. I was just trying to be a dad and hang out with my kid. And so when that ended, I guess in my head, I kind of thought, when he turns 15, 16 years old, like he's not going to want to hang out with me anyway. He's going to,
Except he still is hanging out with you.
yeah, he still does. Yeah. Which is really cool. I love it. But, at 15, 16, I thought, well, he'll go start to spread his own wings and do his own thing. And so at that point I can worry more about my career and whether or not I get married, all that good stuff. So fast forward, I worked at the drywall company for like 10 years. So I did outside sales. I just literally drove around to new construction, remodels, custom homes, drove all over the state of Oregon, measuring jobs, and trying to get, doing sales and trying to get the jobs. And then I met my current wife now, Jennifer, and we started hanging out. And she, if you've ever met Jennifer, she's got like an infectious laugh. She's very motivating and believing, like she believes in everybody. She's very positive, which I'm not generally that type of person.
And she's a good cook, huh, Trevor?
And she's an amazing cook.
Good cook.
Yeah. So anyway, I met Jennifer, and something kind of shifted in my, I guess, personality, where she was complimenting the things that I lacked. I was good at a lot of things, but the positivity and like looking forward and thinking outside of boundaries, she was better at that. So we started hanging out, and then she introduced me to Jan and Gabe, and we would hang out with them too. And at that point, we started playing. He was telling me about Rich Dad Poor Dad. He'd kind of just started his real estate.
I was just getting into Kiyosaki,
Yeah.
kicking off my real estate career, and I was like, Chad, you got to learn how to do this.
Yeah.
And we started playing the board game Cash Flow.
The rat race.
The rat race.
Yeah.
I get out of the rat race with Kiyosaki's board game.
Have you ever played that, Trevor?
No, I've seen it. I'm familiar. I've heard the stories too.
Dude, it's insane.
I would destroy you in that game, but
I actually doubt that. I would bet you money that you can't beat me.
we can do it tonight.
Anyway, so I my mind thought like everybody that I know, right? Up until this point, I'm thinking like everybody else. Like, you go to work, you get a paycheck, you live, you try and save $10.
How old were you at this time frame?
30.
This is like 10 years ago.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
So you're
Mid-30s.
33,
Okay.
34.
Oh, I thought you were like 57. But
No. Cool old joke though. Yeah. I never
Wait
hear
till
that.
you get older, Trevor. We're going to make so much fun of you.
Every Deal Junkies, he references someone's age.
Yeah.
So I
You
don't
think-
yeah.
He read
I
on
just like hanging out with old
ChatGPT, that's a funny joke. He said, people like old man jokes.
Yeah.
Talk about gray hair and bald heads.
You're killing it. So anyway, back to the story. 10 years ago, we're playing this board game, and the idea of the board game is like you go through and it's kind of like Monopoly. Well, you land on certain things and it says like, oh, take a chance card, right? And then it tells you, oh, you just bought an $800 big screen TV. Doodads, right? But you have this like ledger. You're living somebody's life. So you can become a surgeon or a nurse, or you work at McDonald's or whatever, and you're keeping this ledger, and then you get this thing. You just spent $800 on this TV, and you're like, what in the heck?
Chad would always pull like the $5,000 car stereo upgrade.
Yeah.
Which is so funny because Chad's the only guy I know that would have done that in real life.
I still do it today. Yeah. I just have the money now where it didn't then.
Doodad. Yeah, in real life, the doodads are fun, but in the board game, you're like, oh no, I got another
100%.
doodad.
So we played this game like, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 times over the course of a couple of months. And for whatever reason, that really spoke true to me. Like, it started to develop the way that I thought about business and my finances and what I was capable of doing. And so me and my wife got married. She was sick, and so I took some time off, and I had quit my job at the drywall company. And my plan was to remodel my house, take care of her during that lapse of time. And then somebody else called me that I used to work with. They used to hire us, and he owned a small commercial construction company. And he basically made me a job offer. And I said, well, I'm not really interested in working at this point. I need to take some time off because my wife's sick and we're trying to get her better. And he said, well, I really need somebody. Like, can you meet me? And I was actually down at the hospital. She's in surgery. I'm having this conversation. And I was like, yeah, I can meet you on Monday. So we sat down. He made me a job offer, and it was pretty good. His job offer the money was good, but everything else surrounding it wasn't that great, right? And so I said, well, how about you pay me a lot less money, and you pay me bonuses, and you give me a company truck and take some of the weight off my shoulders. And then in return, if I produce, then you make more money, I make more money. And if I don't produce, then you're not out anything and I lose. And he said, okay. So I did that, and I worked there for 2 years, and I made a lot of bonus money.
So you took on more risk on the front end,
100%,
knowing that you could produce more for him and yourself.
Yep. Yeah, put your money where your mouth is type of scenario. So I did that for 2 years, and that was a big turning point for me. Like, that was an amazing opportunity. I learned a ton of stuff. It wasn't the ideal place for me to work, I don't think, but it taught me a lot of things about what I would want to do, what I wouldn't want to do. And I was working on a project down in Lebanon for a friend, and he said, why don't you just go out and start your own company? And I said, well, I'd like to, but that seems really hard. I don't know if I could do that. And he's like, no, you can do it. And so, he owns his own business. So.
Yeah. So you believed because he believed in you?
Yeah. He wasn't the first person to tell me, but he was the first person to tell me that I knew he'd put his money where his mouth was. And so I said, well, I'd do it, but I'd need a loan. He said, well, then draft up a business plan and give it to me, and then I'll give you the money. And I said, okay. And I had no idea how to write a business plan. So I get back home that night, I hop on Google and I type in how to write a business plan. And then this website comes up and it walks you through step by step on how to do it. Like plug and play, right?
Yeah.
So you don't even have to do anything. It's just like answer the questions type thing. And so it prints out this thing and I do all my stuff and give it to him. He's like, oh, this looks great. I'll give you the money.
How much money did he give you?
The original business plan was for $200,000 as a business loan.
Why'd you need $200,000?
It was license, bond, insurance, truck, trailer, tools, an office. I mean, like a legitimate company.
Because you just saw what the dude before you was doing, so you just listed out what he had, basically.
Yeah, when you're doing commercial work, you can't, like, if you're doing residential work, and I was like, oh, cool, I'll just drive my old pickup and I'll pull my trailer and put my tools in it, like that works out fine. But commercial, you're dealing with business people. Yeah. I mean, all your clientele is business people that have money.
Professional.
Yeah, you have to be.
So you were saying that was the first dude who told you should go start your own business. How Gabe tells the story is you guys were playing cash flow, or that he would tell you every single week that you should.
He did, and like I said before, there was a lot of people telling me, but I knew Aaron was leading. He was leading to like, I'll give you the money. Go do it.
Yeah.
He was.
Gabe was poor at that time still and had no money.
Yeah. Well, no, he wasn't poor.
I wasn't giving out business loans.
No,
you weren't at that point.
He was at the intro of starting to build his own thing too.
Yeah.
I mean, he was doing the duplexes, the triplexes, and working with Brian. And, brokering deals, and he was trying to build his own profile. I guess.
What was Gabe like back then?
Skinnier.
Do you want me to say this inside the microphone? Or I think you said I had to behave.
See, if you're wondering what I was like prior to being sober, Chad doesn't know, but I do know what Chad was like prior to being sober.
Yes, he does.
So I can say more incriminating things about Chad than you can about me.
I wanted to hear a little more, because my understanding of it is you were a little bit of a degenerate, and then you turned your life around. And
oh yeah, I mean, degenerates. I was a degenerate.
At that point though, before you started your businesses, you weren't really that crazy. I don't think you were a little more calm back then.
Oh, I was. Yeah, 100%. I think the second, third, and kind of fourth year into my business. Let's see. I just had my 5th sobriety birthday yesterday, and this is 2025 to 2020. So I guess it was more the second, third year that in the business where the stress,
so the stress of owning business, you couldn't cope with. You ended up.
No, it got to me. I would drink often, and there was times where I didn't drink, and drinking was never a problem. But that second and third year, employees, just running the business was really difficult for me, and I found myself drinking pretty much every day.
Not just for fun, but now as medicine
to get it. Yeah, was get out of my own head.
At the end of the day thing type of thing.
It started at the end of the day, and first it started every day, and then it was at the end of the day, and and then it was. Well, let's just move that up a little further, and then it was like middle of the day, and weekends it was even earlier. Holidays is right when you wake up, and it was going bad fast.
So this is a common thing I see a lot of people face that take on business positions like you. And it's a lot of time alcohol where it starts okay, I got to stop stressing about this stuff. It's like their medicine. They take the edge off. So did it work for you, or did it just cause more anxiety because now you're not facing problems or not thinking about it, or how did it all go?
It works until it doesn't work. And when it stops working, it compounds your problem. Right. And so you can drink to a point where you black out and you forget and you feel happy and you feel the sense of anxiety and stress being gone.
Numb.
But really what happens at a point where you're abusing it is it takes the opposite effect and it starts to compound those problems. You wake up the next day and they're 2 or 3 times as worse or as bad as they were the day before. And that's where I got to that point before I realized this is a big problem.
Why were you so stressed out starting those businesses? Because you didn't just start one business, you started 2 or 3 all at the same time, didn't you?
Yeah, and that was really dumb too. I like to like the self-inflicted chaos and stress and anxiety. If I don't have 10 things in front of me to do, I don't feel like I'm accomplishing anything. So I started a pawn shop out in West Salem with a friend, and I don't know if that was a good idea. I don't think it was probably a good idea at the time.
It is now, though.
Yeah. I mean, I like having my gun license. That's about it.
Yeah, you like it because you get all the toys that come through.
Chad has the best gun vault in
Whoa, you can't
Oregon, probably.
You can't tell that.
Chad's a gun dealer.
Cut that out.
He's got cool
Cut it
stuff.
out. So, yeah, I mean, the pawn shop now, then probably wasn't the best time for me to do it.
It would have been better to focus on one thing and really
100%. And now what has happened is that pawn shop is pretty much self-sufficient. We expanded a little bit. I think we're going to peel back and just get back to our roots. But that gave me the opportunity to buy that building, which I never would have had if I didn't have the pawn shop, which wouldn't have got me super excited about.
And the building
real
has
estate.
apartments attached to it.
Correct. Yeah. So
that was your first investment piece?
like
income producing? Because you'd owned other properties like land and other things.
Yeah, but the land produces income.
We're not there yet.
Oh,
Chad
it does.
says.
So yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so we're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
Okay.
So
Okay.
with the drinking part, did you know it was a problem as you were doing it, or you were just doing it not thinking about it?
No, I knew it was a problem, but I also got to a point where I didn't care. And that was the scary part. Like when you get to the point where you don't care what happens, what the outcome is, you're just like, it's a very selfish, inward looking position to take. And that's where I got. So
how did you solve it?
I made a big mistake, and that big mistake led to me waking up the next day and calling Gabe and saying, I'm ready to quit drinking. Because he had told me for years, like, best part of my life is, the program that I work and my meetings. And I just always thought he was kind of crazy, to be honest.
I am kind of crazy.
Who wants to go to an AA meeting? Like, how could that be the best part of your life, right?
Yeah.
And so for years he'd been telling me that, and I just, whatever, I just didn't understand. So
because you saw him go sober, and like I look at you guys now, and you guys are always like, you're always pretty happy and like you're in the same mood all the time because you're not under the influence of substances. So
yeah.
You didn't see him and were like, oh, that's pretty cool, I should do that ever, until like that moment happened where you had to change.
Yeah, I had to. You have to find your bottom. Like everybody has a different bottom,
yeah.
And sometimes somebody's bottom could be death, right? I don't think my bottom is death.
Most people's bottom's death, but your ass has to be on fire to ask for help. Nobody walks around going like, "Hey, you look happier than me. What do you do?"
Yeah,
I mean, there'd be a lot more happy people if that were the case.
And I'm not too proud to ask for help. So the next day when I woke up and I just thought I can't do this anymore. Like I just can't do it. It's not about the money. It's not about the business, the success, or it's just I just can't physically do this.
How has getting sober affected your businesses?
Oh, since I got sober, I think we had this conversation the other day. I probably, if I were to scale it out over the last 5 years, had I continued to drink, I'd probably either be dead or bankrupt. And, I probably 20x'd what I would have done if I would continue to keep drinking. So.
What do you attribute that to? Just more energy, more drive, more focus?
All the things that you would expect. So energy, drive, focus. But not only that, with being sober and being part of the program and having friends and surrounding yourself with people, everybody's positive traits are contagious a little bit. So if you hang out with a bunch of people who are doing real estate, you guys know you're going to do some real estate,
yep.
Right? If you guys were hanging out with me every day and you didn't have any guns, well, pretty soon you're going to be buying guns, right? Like that's how that goes.
Yep.
Right? It's contagious. And so the same thing can be said in the program and the meeting that we go to and the group of friends and that is that it just makes you a better person overall and gives you focus and makes you want to do better.
Yeah. So speaking of, being contagious off other people's habits, how I think you started buying real estate is because of Jaron, your son. And my whole thought is you just wanted to hang out with Jaron more, so you started buying properties because
he was jealous. I think he was jealous.
So that's twofold. There's two parts. There's one, watching Gabe, and I knew what he was doing. I wanted to be a part of, right? The other part was Jaron came to me and said, I want to do real estate. And I said, well, if you want to do real estate, you need to talk to people that are successful at real estate. So he sat down, he had lunch with Gabe. He had lunch with my buddy Jake. I mean, he sat down and talked to a bunch of people, and he's like, okay, how do I get into real estate? What do I do? What's your tips? What's your advice? And he started to get running on it. So I don't think I had anything to do with the real estate. I think probably more Gabe did about getting him super juiced about it.
And now you're going to be rich because of it.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you get into it then?
I've always kind of been into real estate. I bought my first house when I was 22, right when I got divorced. I bought my first house right next to Sumter Elementary, and I remodeled it myself. That's where me and Jaron lived. And I really enjoyed that process. I learned a lot. And then I sold that house because that business loan that I was telling you about earlier didn't actually come through. That friend got in a predicament where he couldn't loan me the money anymore. And so I had like 2 weeks before I was going to start my business, and I had all this stuff I had to pay. And so I ended up selling my house. It was in the market, was really hot. Sold my house, and I took my equity, started the business, and paid off some bad debt.
Were you scared to do that?
Yeah, I was terrified. Yep.
How do you know that? Like, how do you learn to work on buildings? Like, was there a point in early life where somebody taught you about how a building goes together and how you fix them and stuff?
No, like the first experience, I guess, would be when I was married to Jaron's mom. We lived in this little house that my in-laws owned, and we remodeled that. And then I remodeled the house I bought when me and Jaron lived together. And then when I worked at the drywall company, my friend that I worked with actually did some framing and acoustical ceilings. And so we did a little bit of that on the side. And I actually physically got to help him do a couple of those things. And then, so I learned a lot about construction in those because we did commercial drywall as well as residential. So I learned a little bit about both of those things. But as far as learning about commercial construction, I think that came from the years I spent working for the commercial contractor here in town, but having the relationships with the people I had the relationships with, which are the subcontractors, because I don't go out and do this work, right? Like I'm not.
But you have to know how to bid the work. You have to know what the job, I mean,
yeah,
you've got to understand on some level, like a higher level, even than your subs, what happens in a job.
Yeah, you do.
I guess you're bidding out a lot of that work though, but you need to know who to call for those bids. I mean, you're sort of the architect behind the whole project.
Yeah. It's just about a relationship, and that's it. I mean, it's no different than you going to the property management company every day and saying, this is going to be the plan. This is what we're going to do. You don't have to know the inner workings of every little task that somebody does, but
you have to have the vision,
right? And you have the relationships, and you have the personality to draw people.
That's just that's interesting to me is how everybody's so different, because I'm not interested in buildings. I don't drive by buildings and go like, wow, that's cool. Or how did they build that? Or how would you fix that? I mean, there's nothing in my brain that gives two craps about what a building is or how it comes together. I just want to own them. I don't want anything else. That's why flips and remodel and all that stuff, it's just not even interesting to me. So it clearly must have had some interest to you to be involved in a career path that is specifically dealing with improving buildings.
Yeah, I have a ton of fun taking something and going through the process of like imagining, being creative, giving input, taking, a project from what somebody can think of or can't think of to the end result. That part for me is the best part.
When you're looking at a job, do you visualize? Like, can you see it in your brain what you're imagining the space to be or the building to be?
Yeah. In some instances, and sometimes it doesn't come out as good as I thought it was going to, and sometimes it comes out better than I thought it was going to. Like, for instance, I just went to an open house this last Saturday. It was a job that Jaron ran. I started it. Jaron ran it. We just completed it, and he invited us to his open house on the weekend. I stopped by, and I hadn't been in it in like a month, and so like all the finishes had happened in that month. But I was really heavy in like designing and helping guide the tenant. He bought the building to move his business into. I was guiding him, getting him, answering questions, getting him where he needed to be because he didn't understand a lot of the process. And I walked in there, and I was impressed. Like, I walked in there, and I was like, we took this little house on 12th Street that looked like a little junky house, and turned it into a professional business. Like, I could see somebody going in there with a $10,000 pet and being like, oh yeah, just leave my pet here, and I'll, because it looked that nice inside.
Was he a vet or what?
Yeah, he's a vet.
Okay.
Yeah, he actually is a mobile vet here in town. And part of his problem was he didn't have anywhere to take the animals to go do like surgery or care for them, or if they had to stay overnight.
Yeah.
And so he bought this building and turned it into that so he can
Cool.
take animals.
What's the name of it?
Joint veterinary.
Joint.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Joynt. He's on 12th Street.
Is that his name?
His name's Casey Joint. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So buildings. So to this day, do you love buildings? Do you look at some buildings and go like, wow, I wish I could own that one?
Not really. No, because usually the ones I want to buy, I'm like, they need a lot of work and they're ugly and they're.
So you like them for what they could become, not
Correct.
necessarily for what they are.
Yeah.
So you like. I mean, Chad. If anybody knows Chad who's listening, like all of his cars are tricked out, trucks, guns, his house. Like there's nobody that knows how to trick out stuff better. I'm not even going to think about it anymore. If I want to trick something out, Chad, what do I do? Just buy me some
Thank
wheels
you.
for my car or do whatever. Like him, I think him and Jaron both have that gift. But you guys like to.
They love consumerism.
Yes.
I mean, I love. Yeah, I mean, it is, but it's also just like just the process of modifying something,
Yeah.
not really building it necessarily from the ground up, but taking something and then putting your own signature on it and making it cool.
Yeah.
Basically.
Like the trucks, when I first started the business, I mean, it's a small business. There's only 5 of us. And we got to, 10 at one point and we're back down to 5. But the one thing that I'd always hear is like, I see your trucks everywhere. I'd be like, well, no, that's
only 5
physically
of them.
impossible. There's only 4 trucks on the road, right? One of those people is my office manager. She doesn't drive one of the trucks. So you got 4 trucks that drive around town. But people see the truck.
Big lifted
it's,
truck.
Yeah, it stands out. And so you're like, oh, there's an MCG truck. And you do that 2 or 3 times in a week, and it seems like you're seeing them everywhere. But really, they're just recognizing. I mean, that with your SMI ones. Now I see an SMI one go by, and I'm like, oh, there's SMI.
Mine aren't tricked out, though. I got 70 of them. I can't put rims in.
That's why you did purple. Because you're like, I'm not going to trick them out. I'll just do purple.
Purple stands out.
Okay, so you were buying some houses, you got your business loan, but how'd you start buying like this investment portfolio that you were doing? What was the first deal? Was the pawn shop one, or?
No, the first piece of property I bought was a piece of land. When I first started the business, I actually made an offer on this piece of land. It was 2 acres over off Fairview Industrial, and I wanted to build a shop there, and I knew that was like the long-term goal. And so I thought, well, if I could tie up the land, then I can, over time, I can figure out how to do that. Well, I think the guy was asking $329,000. I offered him $285 for the 2 acres, and he'd rejected my offer at that point. Well, then go full circle a couple years. I was talking to a local broker here, and I asked her if she knew of a place that had some fenced yard where I could park like trailers, because we had a lot of trailers. And she said, oh, they got this piece of property, and she named that same property. And I was like, that's still for sale? She's like, yeah, I guess, people are worried about the environmental phase studies. People think that the ground's contaminated. And I said, well, how much do you think you'd take for it? Because I was looking at spending like $120,000 bucks. I had found a piece that was very similar to that. And she said, well, worst thing he's going to say is no, so just make an offer. I said, well, I'll offer him $100,000. We'll close in 10 days. I'll pay him cash. And so she made the offer, and he came back and said, okay, I'll take it, but it's as is. Like there is no, there's no phase reports. There's nothing. You're just buying it, and whatever happens, happens. And I said, okay. And so I bought it, and then I did the phase 1 and the phase 2, and they came back clean. So that was my first real piece of property, and I bought it for $100,000 and 2 acres on Fairview Industrial. If you know anything about bare land on Fairview Industrial, that was a good. What's
it worth today? 50? It sounds like it's going down in value.
Yeah.
Are you going to make him an offer?
Yeah. It's worth a lot less than I paid.
You'll have to carry it for Trevor, though. He does not write a check for a property.
And right now, that's fenced off. I paid like $30,000 or $35,000 to fence off the 2 acres, and I rent it out for $3,500 a month.
So it generates income.
Yeah.
It generates like a
Healthy.
30% cash on cash.
Yeah.
That works.
Yeah. And I don't have to do anything. There's no maintenance because they're just parking their vehicles there. And somebody's there. So they're from a security standpoint, it's better for me.
So you bought that with the idea to build a shop on though later. So, well, at that time, parking though still. Just parking.
Yeah.
So outside of like your business, what was like the first investment property you bought outside of like, hey, I'm going to use this for work? Or has it been a mix of what's mostly?
That'd be the pawn shop was the first that was the first investment property I bought. We went into that building. So the building is, where the pawn shop is at is a commercial building up front on the street. And then there's 2 apartments above it and 5 apartments behind it. And it's like one long, skinny building. So we went in there, and I went to go talk to the owner at the time. He was a really old guy, and I just said, hey, can you give me some allowance money to do a TI, because it was in pretty bad shape where the pawn shop was going to go. And he said,
you were a renter in this building? Or?
Yeah, I was about to rent it.
Okay.
Yeah. And so he said, well, what's a TI? And I said, okay. TI is a tenant improvement. That's what, commercial. That's a commercial remodel for a tenant. So he said, I don't know what a TI is. And I said, well, how about this? I'm going to put some money into this to make it nice and look nice. Can you give me a couple months rent free? And he said, oh yeah, sure, I can do that. And so he gave me 3 months free while I did the improvements. So I did the improvements, and after that, he loved me. He thought he'd never had somebody put money into one of his buildings, right? As a tenant. It never happened. People usually trash it and leave. So he really liked me. And I guess, he told his kids, when I die, if you guys decide you want to sell this piece of property in particular, because he had a portfolio, if you want to sell this one in particular, I want you to give Chad first right of refusal, because he's always been a good tenant and he takes care of the building. And like the day after he died, they called me and said, hey, my dad said, we got to call you first, and we are going to sell the building. We don't want anything to do with it, because it was in pretty bad shape. And I said, yeah, I'm definitely interested. And so kind of went from there.
This is like during COVID?
Yeah, I'm really bad with dates. Time.
This is like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, I want to say 3.
3 years ago.
Not that long ago. I don't think it was that. I think.
Yeah, maybe not even.
It was barely 2, because that was early on when I was.
Okay, all right.
It wasn't.
Yeah. I don't think it was that long ago.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it had to be like 2 years ago, because I spent the first summer remodeling all the outside. This was the second summer. Yeah, so it's been 2 years.
So did you have to negotiate the deal, or did they offer you a price, or how'd that work?
Well, they had talked to a couple. They had talked to a couple of real estate agents and got this number in their head.
And these real estate agents didn't know what it was worth, did they?
One of them was a residential, and the other one was a commercial broker, and kind of had an idea, but the information was skewed. And so what I did is I went to Gabe and I told him, I'm interested in buying this. What do you think? And he gave me all of his feedback and things to think about. And I did the same thing. I went and had lunch with Paul Curley, and I said, I have an opportunity. What would you do in this situation? He gave me his information. I kind of took what worked for me, both of their ideas, and put it together and made them an offer. And they just said, yeah. I thought they would say, you're crazy. There's no way.
What was the first number they were throwing out at you?
First number was $1.3 million for the whole.
And what'd you end up paying for it?
$700,000.
And did you have to come up with any cash to buy it?
No down payment.
0 down.
No down payment.
They carried the whole 700.
Carried all.
What were the terms?
25-year AM, first 10 years interest only, 5.25% for interest.
Who came up with that?
Me and Paul.
So how did you get them to do 700 if they thought it was worth 1.3?
So that was one of the things that I had to overcome in my brain. And so by talking to Gabe and Paul, I gathered enough information to say, like, how are you going to get 1.3? Like, explain to me how you're going to do it. You can put it on the market? Who's
put a bunch of money into it, raise the rent roll?
Who's going to do the appraisal, and who's actually going to appraise it? Right? Like, there was things that just couldn't happen in a conventional world. And so it at that point becomes not a conventional deal. Right?
Because it was rough. So like you had to go spend money. You got to buy it with no money, but then you had to go put a bunch of money into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it came with 7 apartment units, and the commercial space that happened to be your business.
Yeah, yeah,
awesome.
So I mean, it cash flow literally day one. There's a cash flow,
and the units take a bunch of work. How much money do you put in those units when you turn them?
So I just did my first unit, and I put about 20,000 into it.
And they're small too, aren't they?
They are very small. 400.
So
20 grand's a lot on
you open the walls and everything. And
I took it back to I took out all the electrical. I took out all the plumbing. I took out subfloor.
You're rebuilding it.
Yeah, I mean, I did a full gut and a full, because part of the problem with the older buildings is usually the electrical and the plumbing are just garbage.
What kind of rent bump are you getting on that rehab?
It doubles.
So you go what were they before?
Well, they're all different. So some guys have been there for 20
on average,
years.
$500.
Yeah, $500.
And now you're getting 1,000 plus.
Yep,
that's worth it.
Yep. So I did that first flip, rented it, and then the second thing I did is I took the old storage room, which was actually pretty big. It looked really small. It was crammed full of crap. I gutted it, and then I turned it into a coin-operated laundry room. And then I just had a another tenant that got hit by a car, so I'll be flipping that one pretty soon.
What would you say the building's worth today?
The way it is now, I would guess
Over $1 million?
Oh yeah. I mean, I put $275,000 in the exterior.
Oh, it's probably
so it's got new roofs.
It might be worth the 1.3 now.
It might be.
Rebuilt it inside and out. So you've done a lot of the units.
I haven't done all of the inside. The pawn shop's done. One unit's done. The storage room's done. So now I have to one at a time. I have to go.
So you have 6 more interiors to do.
Yeah.
With the exterior, envelope, roof, commercial space, everything's done.
Yep. Landscaping, all of it. It's all done.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was like your first bigger real deal. You're like, did you like doing real estate deals after this? You saw the power of it, or what were you thinking?
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, I don't know that I was super excited. I just, I'm more of an opportunity guy. Like when things fall in my lap, I'm like, oh yeah, that fell in my lap for a reason. I'm going to do this. And so I wasn't super stoked on it. I was stoked on that deal but then Gabe and Paul both told me like that'll never happen again. Like that was a once in a lifetime deal.
Oh, wait till you see though.
Don't get the expectation that that's going to happen to you again, because that's not reality.
Unicorn deal.
Yeah, you hit a home run. It is what it is, right? And so I took that going forward a little bit. And then I think after that is about the time Jaron started to like, I don't want to work here anymore. I want to go do real estate. And I was like, okay, well, you need to go sit down and talk with these dudes and figure out what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, because you can't just quit and then not know what you're doing. And so then he started to hit me up. And I think ultimately, if you were to just boil the whole story down, Jaron said, I want to leave now that I finally got him trained, right? Like it took me, I didn't want to hire him in the first place. I hired him when he was 15. He worked for me for 7 years or 6 years, 6.5 years. I finally got him to a point where he can do everything I need him to do. So it takes weight off my shoulders. And he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. So,
you should have gave him golden handcuffs, man.
Yeah, I know. So I
know what he did.
I basically told him, stay here and help me. You go out and do your real estate thing. Figure out what you want to do with real estate. If it's buying houses, flipping houses, developing, whatever it is. And I'll help you in that journey. So if you need my expertise, you need my guidance, you need me to sign on a loan, whatever it is, like if it's down payment, we go 50-50. Like if it comes down to actual money, then, and he's more of a proponent than I am in that, because he wants to feel like you didn't give me anything, right?
So I would totally let you give me all the money.
I know you would. That's why you're not my kid anymore.
Jaron partners with us on the no money down deals, and he comes to you on the ones that take checks.
Yeah. Well, usually Trevor's bringing them the deals. So I know they're pretty good. So they're usually worth having a down payment for.
Okay, so what'd you do? You did a first deal with Jaron then or something?
Yeah. So I think actually the first one him and Dane were going to partner on I think that was at Pheasant.
Oh, yeah. Dane was trying to develop stuff, but Dane didn't know how to develop anything. So he thought him and Jaron should go develop stuff.
Yeah, 2 people that don't know anything should go develop it. Yeah, that'd be good. So Jaron came to me and said, hey, do you want to partner on this? And so we went over there and looked at it. I said, I just need to know what your game plan is. Like, what does this look like? What is it going to cost? What's the time frame? He told me his information. And I said, I'm in. And so we came up with the down payment together and bought it on a conventional loan.
Yeah, and that was like a house you converted to a duplex or something. You got some land, right? Is what was the deal?
So it's 2 tax lots. The house was like a 2-story rectangular. I mean, it was like perfect for splitting up into two places. So we basically just took the stairs out, made it into 2 duplexes, rented them. That pays for the payment. And then we got the tax lot next to it, which was like 1/3 of an acre. We got that for $1 at closing. And so we're in the process right now of developing that, partitioning it so we can put a triplex on each side. So it basically becomes 2 more lots.
And this is you haven't developed before, right? You have an idea kind of how are you learning how to do it?
For me, like I kind of understand the development process. I have a lot of friends and people that do it
because you've been involved, because you've done some ground up, right? Yeah. So you got to see what other people are doing.
Yeah. And then another thing is I'm obviously heavily involved with architects and engineers with my work. And so I hired those people to help me get through this, right?
They do a lot of that legwork for you. Usually.
Yeah. I mean, you can save a lot of money, and if you're good at developing, you can save a lot of time by doing it all yourself. Like
I did that.
There's certain people that have the talent and the patience to go sit at the city and argue about stuff. I'm not one of those people.
Shout out to Matt Johnson. Lift Architecture.
Lift Architecture. Yeah. I mean, Matt takes care of everything. Even on my personal, the work jobs, I don't do anything with the city. They come inspect, and that's about the only time I interact with them. Matt does everything else for me, and he's a superstar.
So if you don't know how to develop, get a good architect who can help you walk through some of that.
100%. Yeah, an architect, a good civil engineer.
Or good consultant anyway.
Yep. And there's another lady here in town that acts as a consultant that she'll help you, guide you through the city process portion of it. You pay her, but she's worth every penny too.
In your mind, what's the difference between development and construction?
Well, development is all the paperwork to say, I want to build this thing here, and then getting all the approval from all the people.
Red tape.
Yeah, it's red tape. It's just paperwork and fees and hoops, and that's it. And then the construction portion of it, I guess, is,
you're still jumping through hoops,
Yeah.
but the hoops have been defined.
Yeah. At least you have a guiding light, and you know which direction you're headed. As where in development you can go. I mean, even on this pheasant lot, we've been doing it for a year and a half, and they've had so much turnover in the city that they've changed direction like 2 or 3 times. Policies changed, codes changed,
Always.
and so they're constantly evolving what our scope of work is and how we can achieve it. And so it's cost me money and time, and that's part of development. I mean, there's no clear path. So
Yeah, the clock is not your friend
no,
in development.
no.
It's a scary game.
And that's my least favorite thing, is to go slow. I love to do everything fast. I want to get it done, move on to the next thing. And so I'm not a developer.
In a perfect world, I was going to say, would you rather grab something that's already entitled, ready to build,
You bet.
and that would have a lot of value to you to pay
Yes.
even more for the property to get it like that,
Yeah.
instead of have to go through all the brain damage of getting it entitled.
Yeah. So if we're building a 6-plex and it takes a year and a half to develop this property, and I'm sure it'll be a winner at the end, right? I mean, there's going to be a lot of sweat equity and value in there, but I could have built 6 triplexes in the time that we're talking about just developing this one lot.
If you bought finished lots.
Yeah. I could have went out and built.
But the
6.
lots would have been $200,000 a piece instead of $1 for the whole.
That's
property.
true.
We're giving them that one lot for a pretty good deal.
Yeah, we should do that on our next episode. We should sell Chad at one of our lots.
We are. That's what we're doing right now.
Oh, we're doing it right now? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's why I'm
Okay,
here.
good.
You just want me to buy something. So how much money do you have? Okay, you can afford it.
So through this process, so you went from W-2 to being inspired to start your own business. You started your own business. You got shiny object a little bit, started multiple businesses. Now you've really found your niche and you're digging in and going all in on the businesses that are working.
Yeah.
And in the process of that now, are you thinking to do more businesses, or are you thinking to add more buildings now that you've started to buy buildings? Is that what's singing to you at this stage, or where are you at in the process?
Yeah, I think my goal for 2025 is I've been refining the construction business more and more each year and trying to become more efficient and give more responsibility to people. So that's going to continue to be part of the goal. To get back to our roots at the pawn shop and have one store, I think, is another part of that plan. And then there was another business, I'm not going to get into it, but I was a part of that I'm exiting, and getting that behind me is going to be really helpful. But going forward, it's definitely going to be real estate.
Well,
Like,
your goal is $50,000 in cash flow, right? Is that still? That's what you said at our mastermind.
$50,000 a month or a year?
$50,000 a month in passive income from real estate.
Just from real estate?
Yeah.
Well, you're going to need to buy some more real estate.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. That's what I'm doing, man. Come on, get off my back.
I want 50,000. Let's have a race to 50,000.
Well, you just told me you get like 5,800, so you just need to 10x it.
Yeah, I'm not even close. I get a lot of equity.
Yeah,
If you stop buying, you could get there pretty quick if you just stop buying
Yes.
value add
Yeah.
deals, and
Yeah.
then you finish what you got and don't buy more. Then you.
That's why we're going to go buy mobile home parks in the Midwest.
Yeah, I want to go with you. I want to buy mobile home parks.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so what'd you do next after that pheasant deal? Like, what other deals did you get into?
So the pheasant deal. So Dane, I think Dane and Jaron did that one, and then you brought us Lebanon, I believe, was the next one.
You bought another seller carry.
That was a seller carry, Lebanon? I don't know. You tell me. Bro.
You bought that for like 20. You bought a house for like $20,000 down in Lebanon.
Yeah, I think we paid $10,000 each, and we got a house in Lebanon. Jaron did all the work and manages it and takes care of it, and I don't know. I don't have to pay anything, which is cool. I own another piece of real estate.
What's your favorite part of owning buildings?
Owning them.
Just
Saying
you own them?
So that my number goes up and Trevor's impressed every time I see him.
He showed me his SREO on the way in, And I didn't realize Chad owned that much real estate. And he says, I got 7.2 million or whatever it is. And I said, that means you're going to make $7 million over the next 10 years. And Chad says, what? How's that work?
Yeah.
Because it's going to go up and double at some point. It may not be $700,000 a year, but at some point over the next 10 years on average, you're going to see that double. So you're out working, you're running your business. It's a great illustration of you work your ass off every day to run your businesses and manage employees and grow and take all that risk, and your businesses will generate a lot of income for you, but you got to work for it. And while you're paying attention over here on this side, your schedule of real estate is growing in value. Sometimes it's going down, sometimes it's going up, but on average over a period of 10 years, you're going to make $7 million over the next decade that you don't have to work
if you don't
for.
buy anything else.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's what he
It's
said.
gonna be more.
That's what he said. Is he said, I'm just getting started. I said, you can just leave it right here and
And
don't do anything. Now, it doesn't mean that that'll generate him $1 in cash flow, although it should theoretically if it's going up in value. The rent rolls and everything should be what's predicating that. But
Okay, so you bought that house and then you kept buying stuff. How'd you get to $7 million?
I don't know. I made Crystal update my schedule of real estate on the way here because I knew I'd forget what I have. So I have the State Street house.
I don't know. What'd you buy next? What's the
So
story?
me and
Jaren
Jaren partnered on Lebanon, Pheasant, Lebanon, and State Street.
Okay.
State Street, we were gonna do.
So is Jaren just bringing these to you? And he's like, sign on this for me.
Yeah, Trevor gives them to Jaren, or Jaren finds them, and tells Trevor, Sabrina. So I don't do any of it.
So you don't even know. You're just along for the ride.
No. Well, because I trust Trevor, and I trust Jaren, and I trust Sabrina, and I trust Dane, and I know if those people are involved, and I trust the circle of people that are doing the deal, and they bring it to me. Like Jaren's not going to bring me something he knows I'm going to say no to, right? So that means that it's going to pencil, it's going to make sense, and it's going to be a good deal. So it's pretty easy for me to say yes at that point.
I'm convinced he just wants to hang out with all of us. He doesn't even care about the real estate.
He will.
That could be it too.
He will.
Yeah.
When it buys him some guns, he'll be like, "Oh, we need more buildings."
Yeah, I guess if I had a choice, I would buy bigger stuff. Probably, I just like bigger stuff.
Okay, so that's what you've been moving into now. So you bought like a few houses. Did you buy anything out after the houses before you got into the recent deal that you did, the bigger one?
No, I don't think so.
So what did you think when Jaren found his first deal that he needed no money for after you guys bought all those together and then he didn't partner with you on that one? Were you offended?
Oh, no. No, yeah, I was offended.
I was too.
I don't like him. Yeah.
I was excited because I thought me and Chad are going to be partners on this deal.
Yeah.
And then I find out that Gabe's our partner.
He took it to his real dad and he's like, well, real dad, here we go. I'm going to give you the good one. I gave Chad the bad one.
He knew that no down payment would be exactly how much I could afford to put into that.
Yeah.
He comes to you for the money.
Yeah, Gabe told him the no money down at lunch that day, and I think that's why he knew to give it to Gabe.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
That deal sucks. You don't want that deal anyway. I'll sell you my shares in it.
No.
I like that.
No, I like you being the owner there.
Actually,
it makes more sense.
It's a good deal.
Yeah. So after that was I have other pieces of property. Obviously, I have the piece of property where I live, and then I have a 40-acre parcel out kind of by my house, but we use it for duck hunting. And then I think that's it for real estate, and then the one I just bought.
Okay, so your goals going forward are just to keep acquiring and hope things fall in your lap?
Yeah, that's my goal.
That's a
well, is that a bad goal?
It's not bad.
It's not a good success strategy, I feel like.
I don't know.
He's putting it out in the universe.
Let's talk about my deals. Are they good or are they bad?
They've been good so far, but if you want to get to $50,000 a month, I don't think you can just keep hoping.
I didn't say that I was in a hurry.
I thought you're trying to do it over the next 5 years, I thought.
Oh, no.
That was,
you forced me to say that.
That's what you told
Trevor's
me.
in a hurry for you.
Yeah. No, I don't necessarily have set goals. I don't have, this has to happen in this many years and I have to make this much money. That's not the way I operate typically. But if you're going to put me on the spot and ask me to throw numbers, I threw numbers. So that's the best I give you. But, if you came to me tomorrow, you or Jaren or whoever came to me and said, the circle of people that I told you I just trust came to me and said, I got a deal for you. I'm going to say, I'm probably going to say yes. And if you came the next day, I'm probably going to say yes.
Yeah.
If you came tomorrow and you came 6 months from now, I guess that's, I'm not actively out looking for the deals.
Yeah. Do you have a deal type you like most? Because I feel like you have a really special niche in the next episode, we'll dive into that deal because it's a cool deal. The more recent one you bought that's like an industrial type of who you know like occupies the deal.
Yeah.
Like I think in the pawn shop I really like too because you can do the TI. I feel like if you bought more like retail mixed use buildings, like that's your specialty. Like you know it better, you know the tenant base. Like
but the problem with those buildings is they don't cash flow and they cost a lot of money to operate. So do I like commercial the best? Probably. I mean, because that's the part, that's my expertise, right? Is I can go in a commercial building, know exactly what it needs, know exactly what kind of tenant can go in, but they don't really return.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know why they don't return. They're just not that great from they get vacant and they cost a lot of money to work on, and the rents don't move like residential.
Every building is different. I'm sure there's good ones and bad ones, but you're right. It's a different game.
Yeah, it's a totally different.
It moves slower. It costs more.
Yep.
There's more risk in some
the game
regards.
For that, then, like, why do people buy those?
Commercial building?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. What makes people do anything that they do different from other people? I think that one of the reasons, like we talk a lot about, we want to buy mobile home park, we want to buy shitty apartments, we want to buy self-storage. Like there are people out there that'd be like, I am not going to own a freaking apartment building where somebody's going to plug the toilet up or whatever. I mean, there are just people they're not looking necessarily at the metrics. They just don't want to own that asset type. So I don't know. I mean, retail's sort of making a comeback. Office is going through its thing right now, but there will be a time where you can make money on that. I would imagine also when you're talking about like, Chad's saying he wants to make $50,000 a month. I just did the math. He's going to have $12 million in equity to do that. So you either need to own $12 million outright or you need to have $12 million in equity on a 5 cap to do that, right? So that'd be $600K a year, $50,000 a month. So So you think about like, okay, well he's owned $7 million today, and on that $7 million you might have $4 or $5 million in debt or whatever. So you're on your way. Let's say you're a fifth of the way there, something like 1/6 of the way there. Mm-hmm. And so then Chad said something interesting. He said, well, I want to do bigger deals just because I like bigger deals, but one of the things bigger deals will do is get you there faster. Mm-hmm. You just got to be careful you don't do the wrong big deal because it might wipe you out.
Yep.
And so you're starting to, you're kind of in a phase right now where you're testing the waters and you're trying new things. You're doing different deal structures. You might try a couple asset types and you're really trying to feel it out for what fits for you. And I think everybody's just a little bit different. Some people find a lot of success in industrial and they run with industrial. They can never imagine why we would be thinking about buying mobile home park or something like that. So I think it just comes down to your risk profile, your personality type. Some people want to drive through downtown and go have dinner with their friends and say, hey, I own this building. I mean, that's ego investing is part of it.
Yeah.
And definitely even us, like we'll be driving around downtown and we'll be like, what about that one? I mean, it just sounds cool. I don't know if it actually is cool on paper, but part of it is just like you want to pat yourself on the back a little bit and just go like, I'm a hot shot. Paul Curley's a great example. He bought up several buildings in downtown Salem, but he didn't do it until he had a base of, over 2,000, B and C apartments where he had a big base and he could go, well, now he can, it was almost like he could spend his money on anything that he wants to spend his money on. That's what he decided. Now, we may decide we want to go buy a jet or we want to go buy an island or we want to go on vacation every day or do whatever. Everybody's got their own thing. When it's time to blow the money, then you can do whatever you want. But if you're a deal junkie, there is the risk you get to the point where you do whatever you want. You just go buy buildings that don't really make a whole lot of sense on paper. Yeah. And so I know, and it's probably a lot of owner user. There's multiple reasons. Nonprofits, different people that own stuff. I don't see. You go list a few buildings downtown. Tell me how many people call you and tell you they want to make offers. There's not a long list of buyers just out there going like, oh my gosh, I can't believe another downtown building is available finally. I want to buy it.
Well, you live downtown. How many buildings are vacant? How many vacant spaces do you walk by when you're walking to?
I'm pretty oblivious. I don't know.
There's quite a few. And downtown's faces its own challenges over the last few years.
But there is retail and office in other parts of town besides downtown. You don't have to be in the downtown core. When you look at like Think about big box retail, like go over to Lancaster, Willamette Town Center, what they've done there, right? And think about the TJ Maxx and the Nordstrom Rack and the Ulta and all those big, I mean, those are big companies, big, like they call them credit tenants, and they're taking up huge amounts of space, signing really long-term lease. The advantage to that is, well, I've got a company in there that's very likely to succeed. They're going to do really well in this location. They're going to want to stay there for, decades probably. And you got escalators baked in. Every single month what your payday is. Whereas we own apartments, and one month we make cash flow, and the next month they ask us to write a big check. We don't know. It's like we try to manage our properties and do the best we can as operators. We have no idea. Like at the end of the year,
no idea what's happening.
At the end of the year, like even on your $50,000, if you do it all in apartments, like you may make $600,000 in a year in cash flow, but I guarantee you there's going to be a couple months in there where you don't make $50,000. You write a check for $50,000 or whatever,
Yeah.
And then you even make this. You make the $50,000 a month, and then one of them needs a roof, and then needs this and that and everything else. It's just how real estate works.
I think when you look at Lancaster Mall too, like what they've done over there has been amazing. But the amount of money they had to put into that to get from point A to point B was, absolutely.
But
insane.
they're pros in the way they operate. The operators who came in are clearly different operators than the operators who were there when it was Lancaster Mall before it became.
And they had the backing to go in there and do what they did. And that's another thing. Like you get into the commercial world and you start working on those buildings. I mean, you could spend $1 million in the blink of an eye. Those guys, I have no idea what that costs them, but it had to be atrocious. Had to be.
They spent a lot of
money.
So
I guess the how that ties in is I don't have that kind of money set in my back pocket. If it was a mall that I wanted to go do, if I had
that's an institutional play.
Yeah,
you got to be a big player before you start taking down something like that.
I'd have to borrow money from Trevor to afford that.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people relate to your story in the fact that like you didn't really know what you were doing. You were living paycheck to paycheck, and now you somehow turned around and you're one of the more like successful business people I know, where you can go buy all these toys that I would never buy. But it's pretty cool to see.
That's how you define success. How many toys?
That's your success, which is cool for you. I wouldn't want those.
Yeah.
Well, if you gift them to me, I would say thank you. But so how?
You'd say thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Open up your vault for
them. Yeah,
them
take them all. You're welcome.
But like what advice could you give people? Because there's a lot of people trying to do that same thing. They're living paycheck to paycheck. They're not sure how to take that risk. Like you meet with a lot of these contractors or people in your space, right? That ask you, how do you do this? Like, what do you see from the ones that are successful versus the ones who don't take action? And then like also the ones who fail that do take action.
I'd say like in construction, the thing I see that makes contractors fail the most is a guy that is really good like at construction, right? A guy that can wear his bags and go out and like do the construction. That's one job. Running a business is a completely different job. And so what people do is they think like, oh, I'm the best guy at this company. I only make $45 an hour and I can do anything. I could remodel this whole building, right? All by myself. I know everything. That's great, but you don't know how to run a business, right? And I'm the opposite. Like I don't know how to go physically do everything. I know how to manage it and run the business. And so that's where you see the most failure is people thinking that they can do both, but you don't have enough time. There's not enough hours in the day for me to do my job. I certainly wouldn't have enough time to go put my bags on and do the work too, right? And so people thinking that you can put those two things together and run a successful business, I think that's where most people fail. At least the people I've talked to and have tried to help get out of their own way with stuff like that, that's typically the case. What was the other question?
What advice would you give people who want to do that to help them succeed?
It's a stay in your lane type thing, right? Like what are you good at and what do you like doing? Well, I'm good at relationships and managing. And so that's what I do all day. Like I go out, I work with subcontractors. I work with my clients, my customers. That's my role in the company is I handle those people and make the management of the job go the way that I want it to go. And I don't have to go out and do the work. And so, I don't know if that's the right way to do it or not, but I've found
do you think
it is.
Do you think like W-2 people should be looking to go start their own business, and would you recommend it to others or?
Yeah, I hear this a lot. I hear people like, "Oh, I'll just go start a business. It's so easy." My least favorite saying in the whole entire world is "must be nice." I know, like, get out of your truck, like, "Oh, nice truck, man. That's really cool. I like those lifting the wheels and tires. Like, cool. Must be nice."
Do you know whose saying that is?
Who?
Cam Haynes.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely hate that saying. It's like the worst saying in the whole entire world. It makes me cringe because, I mean, I work a lot of hours. I work really hard. And when I'm laying down in bed, I'm still thinking about work. And when I wake up, I'm thinking about work. And on the weekends, I'm thinking about work.
Sounds like you need some new hobbies.
And when we're on vacation, I'm thinking about work. Like,
He's a workaholic now.
yeah, I care. I want things to go the way they should go. And I have expectations. And sometimes it's hard for me to let that go.
So do you think people like need to understand that before they say they want that lifestyle? Like how much work it actually takes you? Like most people probably don't actually want to do what you do, I'm assuming.
No, I don't think so at all. Well, I mean, it's so much so that Jaron said he doesn't want to do it. So
They want the
what
toys.
Does that, yeah, what does
They
that
want
tell
the
you?
Toys. They don't want the work.
Yeah.
I mean, Jaron tells me all the time I don't want to do it.
If you're a W-2, there's nothing wrong with having a job. I mean, this is how you make your way. We need employees. Like, there's nothing wrong. Work your way up in the ladder and make as much money as you possibly can. If you're out there working a W-2 job and you wake up every day and you're like, I hate this life. I cannot work for somebody else. You know it. It's in your DNA.
Yep.
And I'm guessing at some point in your W-2 part of your life, there was a time where you were like, I'm not going to do this for somebody else forever. At some point, I'm doing this for
the 3 or 4 years before I started my business, I started to get that. And it was shortly after we started playing that game, and my mindset changed a little bit and said, oh, I see. I just need to get out of the inner circle of the rat race, like what everybody's doing, what everybody's telling me like the limitations are. Once I realized like I could visualize, once I get out of that, like then I can do what I want. The last 3 or 4 years before I started my business, it was constantly like nagging at me, like I need to do more. I need to do something. I need to take a step. I need to take some risk. I need to like throw it out there. And selling your house is that's a big deal.
You were all in. You burned your ships.
I had just like every other person I knew at the time, I had 2 car payments. I had some credit card debt. I had a house, had a little bit of equity. I sold it, paid off whatever debt I could, took the $40,000 that was left over and started my business. Well, as I told you earlier, I asked for $200,000. So now my business changed. My business model has changed quite a bit, right? I had to like scale it all down. Luckily it still worked out for me because I just had to work harder and faster, but, I didn't have to pay back a loan either. So it worked out for me in my situation. I wouldn't recommend that to a lot of people. I mean, that was pretty scary.
It's a cool story though.
Yeah. If you know you're entrepreneurial, you know this. You know you're waking up every day saying, I need to do this. Like you're thinking about, like you're willing to burn your ships. You're willing to go sell your home to get the money to go start your business, because what are the other options?
Yeah, exactly. So at 32, 33 years old, well, I guess 34 years old, a lot of people ask me like, well, what if you don't make it? Well, the cool thing about starting a business and doing what I did, selling my house, using the equity and doing all that stuff, like the only way I lose is if I lose because of me. I'm only betting on me, right? I'm not betting on anybody else. Nobody else is going to do it for me or not do it for me. So you're really betting on yourself. So if you have the confidence level to say, whatever it is I'm about to go tackle, I know I'm going to fail, I'm going to fall on my face and things are going to happen, they're going to be tough. But if I can push through all of that stuff, then I'm going to find success at some point. And so when you bet on yourself, if you have that mind frame, I think that can carry you a long ways regardless of what you're doing. So I'm just taking, the construction company has done really well, and I love it. I love what we do. I love the size we are, and I love our clients and the people we get to help. But doing the real estate thing is just another dimension or another layer of what things I like to do.
For our listeners, tell us what MCG specializes in. What kind of work are you guys doing and looking for?
So we do small commercial TIs. I would say 80% of our work is interior TIs. So an existing building, we're doing salons. We do Dutch Brothers work. We do office TIs. We work for, we've done appliance stores. I mean, we've done everything.
You did SMI.
We did SMI. We've worked in a lot of buildings.
What would you say your niche is? Like what makes you different than the other TI contractors in town?
I feel like a lot of our jobs come to us, the commercial brokers, maybe they'll have this client that's coming into town, and let's just say it's a $300,000 TI. Okay. And they come into town and they kind of know like, this is the building we want to move into. And this is what we know our construction budget should be, because they've built these everywhere else or whatever. And then they reach out to the first contractor that they think that they do business with, and then that price comes in at $380,000, and then the person's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to spend $100,000 more to get into your market.
Then they call you.
Sense. Then that broker says, well, I think I got an idea. Let's call this guy Chad. Like he can do it. He can do it cheaper and faster. And I don't want to say that I'm cheaper, but I'm more cost effective because I don't have the overhead that my competitors have. Like my next closest competitor, I think in scale, like people that I bid on day to day, like I have 5 employees and they have
40.
Yeah, 25 or 40. Like the person I bid against the most has 40 or 50 employees, right? So like day to day, I go out and bid and I run into other contractors. It's 50 to 5. So I have that much less overhead.
Does that mean that you have a harder time taking on a bigger job?
Yeah. So if it's typically, we've done a few jobs that are over $1 million, and they've all went really well and they're fun. The problem is I don't have the staff, right? So if we do a job, let's say a job is $3 million and I have one guy, let's say Jaron, and he's running 4 jobs at a time or 5 jobs at a time, and then one's closing and I'm giving him another one. Well, he's, in a quarter, he might be running, so over 3 months, he might touch 13, 14 different jobs. Well, if we get a $2 or $3 million job, now he just has to be parked at that big job, right? And so I can't move the way my company is supposed to move when I take one guy out of the mix and put him there and leave him there. So I don't typically like to do jobs that take a long time. We've done them in the past and they've gone really well, but it's not my forte.
So you want to do bigger real estate deals, but not bigger job.
Correct. Yeah, I really enjoy our job. Most of our jobs last between 4 to 12 weeks, and that's a really comfortable space for us.
Is there anything you do at MCG that helps you with your real estate portfolio? Or is it just totally separate type of work?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I came from the residential world too, so I know quite a bit about residential, but all the opportunities stem from relationships and interactions I have in the community.
I mean, it seems like you should own office buildings and do your own TIs, doesn't it?
Well, that's what he's about to tell us on his next deal, dude.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, I guess I should. I just, there's not very many commercial buildings that excite me. To be honest, I look at a lot of my clients spend money on them and they're like pulling their hair out. I'm like, I don't want to do that.
We'll dive into that deal next. I was curious, going forward, you've been working on like your health and fitness a lot more lately, it seems like. Or are you just doing that unintentionally?
I don't.
You don't know?
I don't know. Am I?
I don't know. You're eating healthier, and now you bought a whole gym, and you're working out now.
Well, I've always eaten healthy. Yeah, there's definitely, it comes a time where you're like, and Gabe said this quite a few times on the podcast. Yeah. He's like, hey,
fat bald guy.
Yeah, hey, fat bald guy.
And we're old. We're old.
Yeah, old fat bald guy. No. What's the point of doing all this and making the money and having all the stuff and doing the big, like if you're not healthy, right? And so I've always used working 1 million hours a day as my excuse why I can't do that stuff. And so I'm just going to quit doing it.
You can't put a price tag on feeling great.
No.
Did you just decide that recently though?
Well, I've always eaten pretty healthy.
But the exercise part.
Before I started my company, I exercised every day.
You started your company like 8 years ago, dude.
Yeah, I did.
It goes by in a blink of an eye, and then you're like, wow, I feel old now. I can't move my body anymore.
And there's been spurts of times where I've worked out. Since I started the company, it's hard for me. It was hard for me to mentally block out time. And now I'm to the point where like, I don't care what's going on. I'm going to block out time. It's going to happen.
You made it a priority.
Is that because you saw Jaron doing it too? He got you into real estate and now this, or...
Well, yeah, and all the people I hang out with, if they're working out, it's contagious. Whatever everybody else around you is doing, then you want to be like similar interests.
Would you say I have an influence on your life?
Yes, I want to look like a robot. Who doesn't want to look like a robot? A Russian robot, dude.
Robot.
I aspire to be a Russian.
Can you tell me how I've influenced your life positively?
In every way.
You brought him deals. You brought Jaron deals, and he brought Dad in on.
I like AK-47s, and you look Russian. So there we go. And they make the best AK-47s.
Cool, thanks, man.
Got some great advice from Chad. If you want to be rich, hang out with rich people. You want to own real estate, hang out with real estate people. You want to get drunk, hang out with drunk people.
Yeah,
you want to be sober, hang out with sober people.
Yeah.
You want to get healthy, go hang out with healthy people.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do.
Actually, if you just hang out with the right people in your circle, they're all doing good things.
You might, if you're not having the success you want to have in life, you might need to change your circle.
Correct.
Or add to it or subtract from it.
I think Chad is going to become like Cam Haynes. Have you heard his story?
No, is this the guy who says must be nice?
Yeah, it's like, because everyone,
I like him already.
everyone tells him, "Yeah, it must be nice." He's like, so it's his quote.
He uses it because he hates it also, so he turned it into a tagline.
He's the bow hunter guy that's
He's
friends
the
with
bow
Rogan,
hunter.
right?
Yeah. So he's this guy who was an alcoholic. He kind of has a similar story to you. And then he like turned his life around, got fit, and did all this stuff. Now he's like a motivational speaker, runner guy. You got to start running now next.
Oh, he's ripped too.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
he's like,
that could be you. He started at
beast.
like 30 something, I think. So you're a little behind. You got to pick it up a little bit, but you could be jacked.
Well, I have
in
you
one
for
day.
my motivation, so I'll be fine.
You can look at a photo of me on your wall for
Yeah.
motivation, shirtless.
Yeah.
In your new gym.
Yeah.
I already have that. I'd ask you for one, but I already have it, so it's fine.
All right. If somebody wants to reach out to you, Chad, to bring you a job, how do they reach you? Or do they reach Jaron?
Just call my cell phone.
No, don't do that.
Don't do that? No.
Maybe your
Emails,
website or email.
Website or email, MCG.
mcgcorp.net, or my email is chad, CHAD, at mcgcorp.net.
All right. You heard it there from Chad Montgomery. Thanks for being on the show with us today. We'll come back and we will talk about a deal or multiple deals. We're going to talk about
We'll
deal.
find out.
We're going to come back. Thanks again for being here with us. Thanks for listening, Deal Junkies. If you like this episode, please share us, and we will see you next time.